If you're a fan of Chardonnay and would like to learn more about it, including what drives the price points of various bottles, you're in the right place. I'm Bob Paulinski. I'm a master of wine, one of about 50 in North America. I've been in the wine trade for more than 40 years. In this video, I'll discuss the various wine styles that you can expect with Chardonnay. I'll also talk about what drives the price point of an entry-level versus a high-end artisanal wine. To illustrate the point, the back part of this video will include a tasting of two Chardonnays that are at opposite ends of the spectrum, and much of this video will include my own personal travel picks. For starters, some of what will be discussed here today could apply to any number of grape varieties, but the focus here is on Chardonnay because it's one of the best known, it's widely planted, and it's also extremely versatile as well. The classic origins tie back to Burgundy in France, although the modern day reach for Chardonnay includes most of the world's wine producing countries. Globally, its hold only began to take shape over the last 50 years or so. It's also one of the more adaptable grape varieties in terms of growing conditions, including climate and soil preferences. Unlike many grape varieties, it can produce relatively good wines at higher yields. It's not one of the more aromatic grape varieties, especially when it's made in a no-frills approach, but it's a bit of a blank canvas, and the range of styles are as broad as any in the wine world. Although most closely linked to still wine, Chardonnay plays a key role in sparkling wines like Champagne and Crémant de Bourgogne. While often solo, it is sometimes part of a blend such as a Catarratto Chardonnay blend from Sicily, or occasionally a very non-traditional blend like this Sauvignon Blanc, Chenin Blanc, Chardonnay blend from South Africa. It's often assumed that Chardonnay will be fermented dry, but some are not, especially at the broad market level. Chardonnay can manifest itself with a wide range of fruit characteristics that in part are driven by vineyard location. Cooler regions often result in more citrus notes, a bit warmer result in apple character, and progressively warmer sites it nudges into pear, peach, and papaya notes. Then pineapple character is increasingly found in even warmer growing regions. Acidity levels will vary, being higher from cooler regions resulting in wines with a bright, fresh, brisk character, while those from warmer places tend to have lower acidity, which imparts more of a rounded impression on the palate. Cooler regions oftentimes will have lower alcohol levels, warmer higher. The spread with Chardonnay is broad. At the low end, it'll be around 11%. Many will fall around that 13 number, with some bumping upwards of 15. In terms of ageability, it will vary from a couple of years to a decade plus, but most Chardonnay is meant to be consumed within a few years of the vintage. What are some of the key factors that drive price? Vineyard location is a vital consideration, as land is expensive in prime growing regions. Often, more specific vineyard locations will lead to premium price points and potentially a better wine. Aside from the cost of land, key considerations are vineyard yield, the age and health of the vines, vineyard management techniques, and climatic factors. The low end of the spectrum is industrial or commodity winemaking with a no-frills approach. It's built on consistency from year to year and to hit a specific price point. This is usually highly mechanized in the vineyards and in the winemaking. Modern technology can speed up the wine production, but oftentimes with sacrifices. The wines will lack a strong sense of place. Often they are sourced from multiple vineyard sites and perhaps even multiple regions as well. The place of origin can be as broad as the state of California or even anywhere within an entire country. Even France, a country that's largely built its wine reputation on terroir, has embraced this approach at some level to be globally more competitive. An example of this is Vin de France, introduced in 2010. It's the broadest labeling term, essentially wines from anywhere within France, including blends from various regions. Most wines are labeled by grape variety with broad market pricing. In a few short years, it's gone from 0 to over 15% of the French wine exports. The next time you visit a store, take a look for Vin de France. You'll find the wines are spread far and wide. At an artisanal level, the best versions of Chardonnay will reflect a distinctive character linked to a specific place of origin. Classic examples include Chablis, Meursault, Cluny-Montrachet, Corton Charlemagne, and Le Montrachet. All are made from Chardonnay, yet they display clearly different styles from one another. New World wine producers follow much along the same path with increasingly defined site specific places of origin. This is not a guarantee of quality, but it's often a key difference maker in terms of finding the most expressive wines that display a sense of place. With artisan level wines, grape growing routinely includes a higher level of manual labor, and yields tend to be lower from the vineyards. There's a higher degree of attention given to better ensure optimal fruit quality and maturity. Increasingly, artisanal wines embrace sustainable, organic, and biodynamic methods. Artisanal wines will generally not only reflect the place of origin, but also a specific vintage as well. Between the two extremes of commodity or industrial winemaking and artisanal winemaking is a vast area of gray which can play more to one side or the other. In terms of winemaking, artisanal methods can be surprisingly low input with a don't mess things up sort of approach. But in other cases, a broad range of winemaking techniques will be used to bring out a full range of character. It may include things like grape skin contact with the juice, use of native yeast, a range of fermentation temperatures, malolactic fermentation, lees contact and stirring, along with minimal fining and filtration, just to name a few. The bottom line is traditional winemaking is often more labor intensive and it cannot be hurried. In recent years, the use of wood in winemaking has increasingly become a hot topic. Wood, oftentimes oak, can be used for both fermentation and or aging. Considerations may include type, size, age, and time in oak. At an artisanal level, if oak is used, it's often top-notch French oak. At a lower end, it's typically cheaper options like oak chips, which generally have a rather crude effect on the finished wine. In general, the recent trend has been towards less oak in Chardonnay, especially new oak that can impart a very strong character into the wine, but this will vary by individual wine producer. In addition, other impacts on price are marketing, packaging, supply and demand, route to market, and taxation. The first wine to be tasted is a 2022 Cardiff Chardonnay from California. Okay, let's get into wine number one. This is the one that is about $5. Screw cap, as it should be. Yeah, extremely pale color on this wine. This is a 2022 vintage. Aromatics on it are fairly clean, but also quite nondescript as well. There's a little bit of a peachy, appley characteristic to it, but very simple. It's like a one-dimensional aromatics. On the palate, it's fruity, fresh, light. Definitely some sweetness to this wine. I don't think there's any oak here, but if it is, it's definitely bare bones. But a very simple, direct, rather blah sort of version of Chardonnay. But all things considered for the price point, you really can't expect anything more than what's in the glass. This is Chardonnay at its most stripped down basic level. It has that industrial feel to it. It's the type of wine you'll find sitting on the bottom shelf in a number of supermarkets, probably with a good mark of dust on it as well. There is no sense of place with this wine whatsoever. And this could come from any number of bulk wine regions around the world, and I would find it quite believable. So it is what it is. Next up is the 2020 Catena Alta Historic Rose Chardonnay, sourced from two iconic, cool climate, high altitude vineyard sites from the Andes. Fermented in French oak with native yeast, aged 14 months, 1/3 in new oak. This wine gets full-on deluxe treatment from what is perhaps the best winery in all of Argentina. So why did I select this wine? Simply put, I've never had it, and I was keen to give it a try. The wine is deeper than wine one due to the added age and time in oak. Well, let's see what this brings in terms of aromatics. This is pretty cool. There's a characteristic of some tropical fruit, which is a little bit of a surprise because this is a high altitude vineyard, but there is that tropical fruit character, bit of a peachy note as well. Definitely some oak characteristic shows through. It's got a little of that smoky vanilla characteristic to it. Very refined aromatics, but aromatics that are actually quite expansive. There's a lot going on. On the palate, It's a beauty. And what this shows is very nuanced winemaking. For starters, you can tell that the fruit quality is very good. And there's good acidity in this wine. The acidity actually forms the backbone. It holds the wine together. There's good weight. It carries through to the back palate. Uh, the wine is not all that cold, and I think that's going to be a plus for this wine. Actually, getting it even closer to room temperature would be a benefit. The alcohol on this is 13.5. There is no alcoholic heat whatsoever. The oak character is very well integrated into this wine. And the wine is currently 3 years old. I would think, based on the structure and build of this wine, this could easily keep another 4 or 5 years. This second wine has artisanal winemaking written all over it. That said, I would struggle with this in a blind taste, as I typically don't think of Argentina as delivering this quality level of Chardonnay. It's a little bit like this is the Maserati and wine number one is the Toyota Corolla. I mean, they're just night and day in terms of difference, but this is an absolute beauty. Due to the massive popularity of Chardonnay, there's bound to be some detractors from time to time. Occasionally I'll hear that old expression, ABC. No, that's not a reference to the old Glengarry Glen Ross movie. It's anything but Chardonnay. Truth of the matter is, if you explore Chardonnay for all that it has to offer, you're bound to find some wines that meet your preference. Hey, if you want to play along on the daily wine quiz, take a look at my community tab. Be sure to hit the bell. That way you'll be kept up to speed on all things happening with this channel. If you've not yet subscribed, please do it now. Also hit that like button. Comment down below on Chardonnay. I try to follow up on each and every one. I know what I'm going to be drinking tonight. I hope you're drinking well also. And before too long, I hope to see you again. Cheers.